video was sponsored by Bellessa. We do a lot during the holiday season, you know, eating good food. Kill me. Singing songs. Oh, it's the elf uprising. There'll be no surviving. They don't wanna make all of our toys. And catching up with our families. No, I didn't lose the remote. I've been here for 15 minutes. I haven't even touched the remote. And if you think about it, all of those things have one thing in common. They all require your tongue. The fact of the matter is that the tongues in our lives are going to be working overtime this December, so it's important to give them a break whenever you can. Thankfully, there's Bellessa. For the record, I'm aware that that setup was a bit of a reach, but you try smoothly transitioning from talking about Christmas to doing an ad for adult toys. It's not easy. And I got there, because now I can tell you guys about the Flutter Vibe, a discrete dual stimulation toy that comes equipped with a fluttering feature, which is about as close to a human tongue as you can get. I mean, look at this thing! It's so close to a tongue that I wouldn't be surprised if it started singing Christmas carols.
Their leader's name's Spaghetti, he carries a machete, so lock up all your doors and don't make noise.
And that's not the only way Bellessa can help bring you some Christmas cheer this season. They have a whole bunch of fun things you can use to stuff your stocking. There's the Pebble, which is ergonomically built to provide independent suction and vibration, all while looking like something that Sailor Moon would use to transform. There's the Air Vibe, the Flutter Vibe's equally impressive cousin. And then there's the Thump. It thumps. Trust me, you're gonna like the Thump. In the spirit of the season, everyone who signs up for my giveaway will receive a massive discount, and some will even win a fully free toy, meaning that your holiday shopping just got a lot easier. After all, just because our definition of toys changed when we became adults, that doesn't mean that it's not still fun to unwrap them on Christmas morning. Unless you're celebrating with your parents, then it might get a little awkward. So thank you so much to Bellessa for sponsoring this video, and with that, let's get started. I wonder if it'll duet with me. Their teeth are filled with venom
And can bite straight through denim,
so Santa couldn't stop their Christmas coup. They don't have any bones, so if you're home alone, make sure there's not a crack they can get through. If you guys have been following my channel for a while, then you know that I have talked about many disturbing, amoral, nightmarish episodes of America's Next Top Model that have all aged worse than the speech my grandpa gave at my high school graduation dinner. In hindsight, it was my fault for taking him to a hibachi restaurant, but still, I can never go back there. But what if I were to tell you that until now, I had only shown you guys the glossy Hollywood version of the show? Literally. Every episode I've discussed thus far has been set in Los Angeles, which means that they've all been from cycle 4 or later. And also not from cycles 10, 12, 14, or 23, which are also set in New York for some reason. Still, while I'd happily discuss cycle 10, Justice for Anya, there's a reason I've avoided those first 3 seasons up until now, and that's because I was terrified. It took a while before the show was able to sand down all its edges and fully come into its own. And granted, its own was dystopian torture porn that existed somewhere between The Hunger Games and Saw, but still, those earlier seasons felt worse somehow. And to be fair, I don't know that they actually were, they just felt it. I think it's less the content and more the production value. They got better cameras and settled on an editing style that worked for them, and for some reason that made all the difference. I think it's because it makes it feel a little less real. That added sheen created a bit of separation between you and the Boschian fever dream on your TV screen and made it that much easier to stomach. The first few seasons are like grimy. They look like they were shot on a police body cam and edited on a Game Boy Color. And that gives everything this weird found footage vibe. That added verisimilitude robs the show of some of its fun. You don't feel like you're watching a guilty pleasure anymore. You just kind of feel guilty for watching. It's basically a snuff film. The last time I went back this far in the series, I felt a genuine pang in the pit of my stomach, like I was looking at something I shouldn't have been. And anytime I so much as thought about covering one of those earlier seasons for my channel, that feeling of revulsion bubbled back up inside of me and started screaming, "Stop! Don't do this to the world! Sometimes the past is meant to stay in the past." But then this week I didn't have another idea for a video, so I thought, what the hey? And if I'm gonna take a trip down memory lane, why not go back to where it all began and watch the very first episode of the series? This is Cycle 1, Episode 1, The Girl Who Wants It So Bad. Naturally, the first thing we see is Tyra talking about herself.
I constantly have people coming up to me asking me how can they get into the field of modeling. That's one reason why I started this show, America's Next Top Model. I want to make a top model in 8 weeks. I want to take someone from obscurity to fame, and I want to chart the entire process and show America how it happens.
And that clip actually made a lot of this season make a lot more sense to me. It does a pretty good job of explaining what separates this first season from what the show would eventually become. It feels less like a reality show and more like a documentary someone did about a weird boot camp that a celebrity happened to be running. The competition here isn't model v model so much as Tyra v herself. Can she transform some girl off the street into a supermodel in 8 weeks? And again, I don't think that they actually do anything worse or better here than they would in later seasons. It's just that the way they do it makes it feel different. Something about these girls feels a lot more human. At one point, half of them are late for the photo shoot because they're getting ready. And it's honestly a little jarring. Like, I didn't know that they could do that.
What time is it, you guys? We're really early. We're on so on time. Everybody else is late. Yeah. We're the real models. We're on time.
I was impatient with waiting for them. I was ready to go at 7:45 like we were supposed to.
I guess I know in my head that this isn't actually the case, but somewhere in my gut, I think I did kind of think that when the cameras went down, the producers would put the girls into cryosleep so they could wheel them around as needed and wake them back up when they needed to film with a full face of makeup. Here, though, it seems like they actually have to, like, do stuff on their own. Like, at one point, we see them take a cab. What the fuck was that?
Robin, Keezy, and I found out that we were gonna be late for a photo shoot. We had to find our own way there. So we run back upstairs, get the address, and we took a cab there.
Which is not to say that they feel more autonomous than later contestants, just that they feel like they've been stripped of their autonomy in a different way. They're less puppets and more rats in a cage. I think this may be due to the fact that this is still being treated like Tyra's experiment. They're her playthings. They're not competing against each other so much as everyone is working together towards the shared goal of Tyra discovering the next supermodel. Tyra does things to them that she thinks will help them get to the next level, and they kind of just have to go along with it. Which again, I guess is true of later seasons too, but for some reason it feels more intense here. I think that a big part of that is the absence of Mr. J. Having him there makes it feel a little more like the girls are being guided through the process and creates this buffer between them and the horrible challenges they're subjected to. That is not the case here. Here, people show up at their door and the contestants kind of just have to trust that they aren't there to murder them.
I was sent here by Tyra Banks to have all the girls with a Brazilian bikini wax. So if you don't mind to get all the girls.
I saw like dead fear in people's eyes.
Seeing that in a modeling competition, it does feel like a bit of an overreaction, but like, is it? I know that if I was chilling at home and a random lady came and told me that she was gonna strip me bare down there and I had to do it, I'd be more than a little bit freaked out. I mean, I guess what separates this from that is that here there probably are still producers off camera to walk them through this and give them some reassurance that what they're being subjected to is safe, even if we don't see it. But even if that is the case, I can't imagine that that felt all that reassuring from the contestants' perspectives. This is, after all, the first season, so they didn't really know what they were getting themselves into. Later contestants could study the earlier seasons to know what to expect, but at this point they had no reference for how things would play out. Honestly, the only reason they have to believe that this is actually a TV show and they weren't just being human trafficked is the fact that a famous celebrity was attached to the project, but... well, as we've since learned, even that isn't the best proof in the world. And normally, a surprise forced pube removal would be the most upsetting part of an episode, but that actually goes to the personal trainer, who also comes unannounced to weigh the girls in front of everyone. And then he says their weights out loud on national television. And I'm not going to play any clips of that because it truly is fucked up. But just trust me when I say that the only thing separating this from watching convicts get checked into a prison is the fact that instead of orange jumpsuits, they are wearing a lot of very mid-2000s fashions. Top Model was never warm and fuzzy, but this episode feels cold and unforgiving. There's something almost existential about it. It feels like the universe doesn't care about these girls. And by the universe, I of course mean Tyra Banks. Still, for all the differences, it's honestly kind of impressive how fully formed the show already is. It's not that hard to see the seeds of what's to come. One of the biggest differences of this episode is the fact that they showed a truncated version of the casting process at the beginning of the episode, rather than devoting an entire episode to it. But even though it's shorter, it still feels a lot like the castings that came after it. There are funny moments and sob stories and whatever the hell this is.
I think a lot of people misconceive the way I am and maybe like take me for like, oh, she's like a little priss. And then people don't know the side of me. Like, I love animals. No one knows that I'm an animal activist. I'm with PETA. I do help them and email Congress and like the wolves and like trying to save them. Like I just saved 5 polar bears.
As you can tell, I love leopard and I love zebra. And this is my room.
Okay, I'm assuming that those are faux furs, but even still, it seems a little strange to point out your animal prints while talking about what an animal activist you are. Like, obviously this isn't exactly the same thing, but if you were talking about the work you did with kids, and then you pulled out a pillow and were like, do you like it? It's made from a material designed to perfectly mimic the skin of children. I feel like that would probably raise a couple of red flags. It makes sense that they would eventually extend this process because it's probably the most interesting part of the episode. And I'm not sure that at this point the show was expecting that to be the case. I think they decided to tack this on as a way of increasing the realism of the show. It's almost like they're saying, see? You're seeing every part of the process. And to their credit, it does have that effect. This whole section of the episode feels extremely behind the scenes. The most interesting part to me was when they reveal who made the house, because they end up only picking 8, even though they wanted 10. And it's the only time I can remember watching Top Model and feeling like things didn't work out exactly like someone had planned it months in advance. It felt natural. It was weird.
Hey, pretty girls!
Okay, you guys, I'm looking for 10 girls, but the producers and I can only agree on 8.
It really does feel like their main focus at this point is the competition itself. And while that is interesting in its own way, it does come at the cost of how well we get to know the people in the competition. We only get a few brief snippets of contestant interviews here and there, and I think that's why of all the cycles, This is the only one where I feel like I don't really remember everyone in the cast. That said though, there are a few all-timers here that I do remember, so I'm going to tell you a bit about them now. And I'm going to start with Elise because, well, that's what the show does.
Hi. My name is Elise. I'm 20 years old and I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Elise, is modeling something that you've had a passion for?
Well, it's definitely not something that I could do my entire life, whereas medicine is.
Honestly, I think the biggest difference between this first episode and what the show would become is the fact that she was able to get away with that shit right there. Because had she given that response at any point post-cycle 2, Tyra would have pressed a little button under her desk and a pit of fire would have opened under Elise's feet. That said though, I'm glad that that didn't happen because Elise is one of my favorite contestants to ever appear on the show. To the surprise of absolutely nobody. Elise is the original great model, but does she want it badly enough contestant? And I'd say that she's also probably the best of them because it feels like both of those things are true about her without a lot of producer shenanigans. Honestly, I think the only reason that archetype became a staple of the show is because they were trying to recapture what they had with Elise.
I do not have the will to walk in the catwalk like I give a damn. Holy, I don't want to be a model. I can't. And it's so, it's so irrelevant. Eliminate me. Do it.
If I were to rank every contestant ever on modeling ability alone, Elise would easily be in the top 5. And while I've never actually sat down and tried to think of my favorite picture from the show off the top of my head, I think it's the one that she did with the snake. Which is saying something because I don't even like snakes. Had she appeared on any other season of the show, she would have easily won. But I think at this point, they probably thought that the general public couldn't really understand the concept of high fashion, so they wanted to crown someone with more commercial appeal. Because she's not just a good model, she's likable too. Actually, I guess that's a matter of opinion. I think a lot of people actually don't like her, but at the very least, I think it's hard to argue that she isn't funny. I feel like if you were to ask people why the show got as successful as it did, they'd probably say Tyra or possibly Janice. And while I think they definitely both played their parts, I actually think it was Elise. At least at first. Had she not been here, I don't think they'd have gotten a cycle 2. She's sort of the audience insert. She's really good at recognizing the absurdity around her and commenting on it in a way that makes it palatable.
And the second visitor was a bikini waxer.
Hi, girls.
With her entourage of lab-coated bikini wax minions.
And she does that a lot. She spends a lot of time shelled up in the confessional room. I think it's probably because she didn't like a lot of the other contestants and she wanted a place she could be alone, but whatever it was TV magic. She clearly thinks this is all stupid, but is also kinda amused by it and doing her best to take it seriously. And she kinda becomes our guide for how we're supposed to make sense of what we're watching. Obviously, she's only on this one season, but I do think that her spirit kind of got absorbed into everything that came afterwards. The producers learned to highlight the absurd, and I do kind of think that was them incorporating Elise's point of view into the fabric of the show. Because the fact of the matter is that this cycle doesn't really work without her. Don't get me wrong, there would still be a lot of great moments, but without Elise, everything feels so cold and impersonal that the barrier to entry would be too high to actually enjoy any of them. Still, while I clearly love her, I will say that she is kind of a dick. Granted, I think she's just young, but she is quite the shit talker. Like, the next contestant I remember is Giselle.
I've been in the spotlight like my whole life. I've been a performer. I've been dancing since I was 3.
Giselle's personality is so strong. I love the fact that she's a Latina woman. That was very important to me.
And literally the only reason I can remember her is because Elise hates her.
Giselle annoys me the most out of everyone in the house. And I'm not willing to alienate Giselle because she's the only one in Tokyo with a straightening iron. Giselle coined the term heat wave as a euphemism for farts, which I think thus far is her major contribution to society. Giselle, you worthless. You are so wasteful, bitchy, stupid. You're worthless. Your parents must be ashamed of you.
Again, hard to deny that she's funny, but that does feel a little harsh in hindsight. Up next is Shannon. And I feel like if there was any production interference, it was directed entirely towards her. If the show did have a direction in mind in this first season, it was that it wanted to be a Cinderella story. Its goal was to pluck a girl out of obscurity and turn her into a supermodel. In casting, they really make a point of highlighting that these are just a bunch of small-town girls by showing them calling themselves small-town girls.
Just a small town girl here in the big city. Small town girl.
This is my first time anywhere west of Maryland.
Of all the small town girls, Shannon reads as the smallest, towniest. She's sweet, classically pretty, she has an accent. She's Christian, but not crazy about it. Actually, no, she kinda is, but she's not the craziest one in the cast. It feels clear we're supposed to like her from the moment she opens the door and they start playing the sort of music that's usually reserved for scenes where parents hold their babies for the first time.
Hello. Hi, I'm Shannon.
Hi, Shannon.
Hi. Hi, Shannon. Hi.
Hello. I want to become America's supermodel. I am ready. I want to shake the dust off this small town.
And yeah, Shannon is the only character on this season where it feels like they're actively trying to force a storyline. She's the innocent every girl who was transformed into a model thanks to the help of the competition. Right from the start, they actively position her as the underdog. She's the last person to make the house, and Tyra makes a point of telling us that that almost didn't happen.
There's only one more, you guys. And the producers have been fighting tooth and nail. And that final girl is Shannon.
And it's interesting because if Tyra's telling the truth there, then it kind of suggests that she understood the importance of storylines before the producers did, which honestly wouldn't make sense. She does have a flair for the dramatic. Please enjoy this clip of her pretending to have rabies on her talk show. Once Shannon is cast, though, the producers get right on board. It feels pretty clear that they're paying special attention to her. I think the most obvious example of this is when she's unpacking and we get to hear about her celebrity crush.
Somebody I want to meet. His name's Brad Pinkert. Favorite book? The Bible, ladies. Yay! The Bible, this guy.
In a later episode of the season, the producers hire that guy to pose with her, and then the two of them apparently went on a date. Cinderella. If Shannon wasn't supposed to be the winner, then at the very least, she was supposed to be the fan favorite. I think the producers saw her and said the audience is gonna like her whether they like it or not. I think the only reason she didn't win is because, well, she's not a very good model. Also, she refused to do one of the photo shoots. And it's complicated because the reason she refused to do it is that she didn't want to pose nude, and I think that is something she absolutely should refuse to do if she's not comfortable with it. But at the same time, I get why that would hurt her standing in the competition. Like, I don't particularly like hot dogs, but if I entered a hot dog eating contest and they told me that I'm not going to win if I refuse to eat hot dogs, I'd see where they were coming from. And honestly, I think they even considered overlooking that. She doesn't get eliminated for not taking the photo, which is not something that happens often on the show. Still, because the goal at this point is Tyra's gonna tell you everything you need to do to become a supermodel, I don't think they wanted to crown someone who didn't listen to everything Tyra said. And because of that, they end up picking someone else as the winner.
My name is Adrian. I'm from Joliet, Illinois, and I'm 20 years old.
All right, that's enough of that. That's Adrian. I used to love her, but then she got crazy, and now all of her quirks annoy me. I only mention her because she wins, but I think the sooner we move on, the better. If you want to know more about her, watch season 12 of Celebrity Marriage Counseling or some shit.
My name is Ebony, and I'm actually originally from Harlem. I know that I'm unique. I always get that something is different. So whether it's my look, my personality, something is different.
Odds are, if you recognize her, it's because she became a meme. Like a pretty big meme.
The next girl that's coming to New York City really doesn't have far to go because she's from New York City, and it's Miss Ebony.
That said, though, she was also one of the more memorable contestants as far as this season is concerned. The show's main interest in her is that she's a lesbian. They make that very clear.
I always get that something is different. So whether it's my look, my personality, something is different.
We know you're a lesbian. How do you feel about expressing that on national television?
And she does seem cool. I think that had Elise not been on this season, Ebony probably would have been my favorite.
Not a problem, honey. I'm very open about it. In high school, it was a little drama. They found out I was gay. So I went to the girls' locker room, and nobody wanted to change with me. After that, I walked into the boys' locker room, and they all gave me 5, and I changed. Because those girls didn't talk to me for about a month or 2. But, you know, I decided I have to love myself and be true to me.
Her presence in the house is also the source of a lot of memorable moments. I won't talk about it too much in case I want to make a separate video on it, but the fact that she's gay does lead to some drama in the house that has not aged well. And the person in the center of that drama is the final contestant I'm going to talk about today.
Hi, I'm Robin, 26 years old, from Memphis, Tennessee. I've been Miss Shelbyville, Tennessee. Y'all don't probably know about that. And I competed in Miss Libertyland, Miss Soybean Festival, and I've come from pageantry, and pageantry actually put me through school. So those that say that pageant girls are just, you know, ditzy, that's not true.
Who were you looking at over there?
I got that from Miss Tyra Banks, because at Victoria's Secret, she was looking left and right. I was like, go, diva!
Robin is kind of the anti-Adrian. The first time I watched this, I hated her with a passion, but now I kind of like her.
I'm unique, I'm fun. I don't have to say it, because 5 minutes being around me, you'll know it, you go back and tell a friend.
She is very outspoken, and I remember that being extremely grating, but rewatching this episode at least, she seems fun.
You were like an angel. As soon as I heard, does anyone else smoke? I'm like, oh.
Adrian and I, right when we got in that house, we'd go and we'd pick a corner to go smoke at. There's only 2 of us that smoke.
So we got a good smoking spot, though.
Yeah, y'all. Yeah.
Y'all know what? The smoking thing.
And Miss Robin comes out and starts screaming, like, this whole house stinks now. You guys can't smoke.
It's like it's all in here, and y'all know that smoke like gets in people's clothes and their hair.
Robin, I feel like she's like the mother in the house.
It was a big deal. And that's why I was so nervous. I was like, great. You know, this is all I need.
Because, you know, I don't mind y'all killing y'allself, but, you know, mama want to live.
That is probably the most reasonable request anyone has ever made in the history of Top Model, but I definitely watched that as a kid and thought, arr, she's so difficult, ah! That's how I used to talk. And granted, she is a homophobe.
Ebony's a lesbian, and I find this offensive.
But I'm not going to hold that against her because there is a good chance that her opinions have evolved since then. Lest we forget, this was filmed in 2003 and she was 26 at the time. Still, while I can't overlook bigotry, there's one thing I feel I must comment on, and that's the fact that she was only 26 at the time? What the fuck? I thought she was solidly in her 40s. I mean, they certainly talk about her like she was.
Honestly, 26 is a little late to be busting into the top model game.
I think Robin was the most interesting character to revisit because she's the one that makes me realize how much my opinions have changed since the first time I watched the season. One thing I remember about her is that she's plus-sized, and at the time I remember thinking, well, yeah, obviously she's plus-sized, but looking back...
All right, here we go.
Robin is like 26 or 27 years old. I mean, how much farther is she gonna go, you know, because age is a big factor in the modeling world.
Ah, gross. Get that fat old hag off my TV screen. I think I'm gonna be sick. Seriously though, what the fuck? It's honestly kind of nice seeing moments like this where it's clear that my brain lied to me, because it does give me hope that maybe it's lying to me about other things. If I can believe bullshit about her, who's to say I can't also think it about myself, you know? That said though, I do think that Robin probably wouldn't have been cast on a later season of the show. Granted, they have had many plus-size models since her, but I feel like they were all a specific type of plus size that Robin isn't. If that makes sense. As the show progressed, they very clearly figured out what they were looking for, to the point that it almost became a matter of filling slots. But here, they're still clearly figuring stuff out. Had this exact episode been made on any other season, I think it would look a lot different. I think this is best illustrated by Elise in this episode, because she kind of has a storyline here too, but it's very different than the storyline it could have been. Basically, when they weigh her on national television, she's determined to be underweight. And then it's kind of implied that she has an eating disorder, which, boy, I hope not, because if she does, then it's extra fucked up that you just weighed her on national television. This continues in the photo shoot, which involves them posing in a bathing suit on top of a building in the middle of winter, because of course it does.
It's freezing! This happens to be the coldest day in New York City.
8-degree wind chill. We've worked in a lot of cold weather. For this to be the worst conditions we've ever worked in, and this is their first time, it's crazy.
During her shoot, Elise gets really cold, and that's attributed to her lack of insulation.
She was very skinny, which means she was cold. She got to the point where she couldn't even think straight, and she started crying.
Elise, you know, she has a small petite body, so she probably can't keep warmth, and Elise couldn't handle it.
This thread continues into judging, where they even comment on the fact that she seems a little underweight in a way that they should not have. I know I already gave a broad content warning at the beginning of the episode, but I'm going to give a more specific one now. If you think you might not like what comes next, I'd suggest skipping ahead about a minute or two, because this right here is the kind of stuff I was worried about when I decided to revisit Cycle 1.
Are you naturally that thin, or is that something you've worked towards?
No, I'm naturally this thin.
I love it. I'm not so against thin, if it's natural.
Well, you have no body fat on you, so there's no insulation. It's a little bit thin for me. Thank you.
Okay, no idea who that guy is, but fuck that guy. And look, I'm not sure if Elise actually had a problem. Maybe she did, maybe she didn't. I don't know, and it's none of my business. What I do know is that had this been on any other cycle, this would not have played out the same way. Honestly, had this been on any other cycle, I think they would have edited around it so they didn't get criticized, but if they were going to make this a storyline, they would have done it differently. At the very least, I think Tyra would have had a sit down with Elise where they hugged a lot, but honestly, given the amount they focused on her this episode, I feel like they might have taken things one step further and put her in the bottom 2 as a way of being like, models need to take care of themselves. I'm not saying that would be better, but I do think that if they were going to actually try and tackle this issue, that is the terrible way they would go about it. What they definitely wouldn't do is talk about how she looks like she's an unhealthy weight, and then reward her by placing her second for the week. It doesn't even make sense. This is probably Elise's worst photo, and she gets called before Kessie, who clearly had the better picture. The message of this episode feels very gray. It seems like they're saying she is an unhealthy weight, which is bad, but also it's good for modeling. And it's weird to see that, because the top model I watch not only knows what they're trying to say, but also does not hesitate to beat you over the head with it. I certainly wouldn't call this episode subtle, but it comes closer to subtlety than ANTM has any right to. I think they genuinely were just observing the process of this competition without knowing what makes that process interesting. They're throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks, and while that is not really fun to watch in this one specific scenario, there is something kind of nice about it too. It's weirdly titillating to see things that would have been left on the cutting room floor in later seasons. It makes this episode interesting in a way that other episodes aren't. Don't get me wrong, if Cycle 4 and Cycle 1 came out at the same time, I would pick Cycle 4 10 times out of 10, but knowing that Cycle 1 is what led to Cycle 4 does make me curious to revisit it every now and then. I don't love it as a season of television, but as a relic of the past, I find it very interesting. Yes, there is a lot about it that's hard to watch and makes you feel a little gross in the pit of your stomach, but that doesn't mean it can't still be something you appreciate. A lot of people won't, but if you can, I don't see what's wrong with embracing that. I feel like whenever we revisit the past is to say, wow, that's terrible, we need to keep it buried, or man, that was great, I wish I could go back. And that's unfortunate because there's so much more that the past has to offer us. It can show us how we got here and how far we've come and how we're still the same. I don't know if there's a word for it, but I think it's important to remember that there's a place between nostalgia and regret. We should be able to acknowledge that things haven't always been great, but that doesn't mean you can't still appreciate them. Even if the only reason you appreciate them is because you know that they eventually got better. I was worried about watching older episodes of this show because of how poorly they aged, but ultimately, how poorly they aged ended up being my favorite part. And yeah, that's my video. Please like and subscribe and share and hype and comment and super thanks. I will super thanks next video or the video that comes before this because I am saving this one for reasons that you don't need to know about. Screw you. Also, this isn't sponsored or anything, but my friend Alec just put out a new album and I wanted to tell you guys about it because, well, I like it and I like him, so. It's called Extraordinarily Blue by Howe and Al, Howe ampersand AL. And yeah, it's like a kid's record, but it kind of has like an indie vibe, so I feel like a lot of their parents will like it too. This is here, I'm gonna edit in a clip of one of the songs here.
Early in the morning, just before school, I roll in my bowl where the milk is cool, and the Cheerios make a lovely ring, so I can float and turn everything purple pink. I'm just a blueberry blue, little blue eye with extra juice. Climb on up my hill, share the summer review. Just a blueberry extraordinarily blue.
But yeah, check it out on Spotify or Apple Music or Bandcamp or SoundCloud. I'll put the links down below. I think you'll like it. Check it out. But yeah, that's my video. Thank you. Goodbye. Hello again. It's time for me to pose for a thumbnail while the words go on the screen. I cover my microphone. You probably heard that. I didn't because it was quiet from my point of view, but I touched the microphone. Yeah, this one's going to be hard because for whatever reason, my external monitor has been causing my videos to sort of just like glitch out. It's like midway through film. If anyone is a expert on Canon film, Canon, what are they called? Clicky boxes. Let me know if this is like a common thing because midway through filming, usually like 5 minutes in, it'll just turn into like this like glitched out screen, and then everything that I have will turn into a .dat file, which is just nothing. I did figure out a way to recover those, but I'm pretty sure it's AI, and so I don't want to use it if I don't have to. But I think I didn't, in my defense, I didn't know it was AI when I signed up for it. I thought it was just like, we will clean up your thing. But yeah, I shouldn't talk about AI. I don't like it. It's bad. I might make a video about it, but it would be about why it's good, but bad. If that's something you want to see, click below. No, AI's, it's bad. It's bad. I need to make it clear that it's bad, but my video would be called AI is kind of cool. Because it's also kind of cool. I wish it wasn't in everything, and I wish it wasn't killing our planet. Why am I talking about this? I need to pose, so I don't know what, also, no one pay artists. I feel like I need to say that before I move on. Pay artists, don't use AI. Why? I should, whatever. I just needed one picture, but I can't see myself. I forget if I said this already, but my current plan is I bought glasses that supposedly, I thought I had already done this, but apparently I bought, you can like pick the type of lens you use, and I thought it was like a checklist of like pick the ones you want. So I picked the first one, which is anti-reflective, and then I picked the next one, which was no smudge, because obviously I have very oily fingers. So then I got them, and I was like, why is it reflecting light? And then I just went to check them again, and I realized that you could only have no smudge or anti-reflective. So I think I got anti-reflective glasses for the first time, and hopefully they don't make me look like the serial killer from Sin City, but yeah, I might start wearing glasses in the new year because my eyes are bad, and apparently my camera won't take an external monitor. Okay, picture time. See, I have no idea what this looks like. And it's not like all my pictures look all that different, but I do this and then I think it looks normal, and then I get there and like I have gills or something. That'd be sweet. I'd live in the ocean. Okay, wait. See, and then my microphone, this is whatever, everything's terrible. Ugh. It's really frustrating too, because every time I've gone to an eye doctor, it's because I'm like, things look blurry to me. And they're like, yeah, you got a little prescription. Excuse me. You have a little what am I doing? I don't feel like editing this out, so they'd be like, you have a little prescription, but it's not really bad, so you don't need glasses or nothing. And then I have to be like, well, like, can you give it to me? Because there's a reason I came in, and it's because things look blurry. And then I get glasses, and then I don't wear them because I used to just wear them to drive, and I don't really drive anymore. But now I would use them to read my teleprompter and see what I look like in my viewfinder, but if I do that, then they reflect light. It's a terrible system I have going on. Like, I need a new camera. That's the thing. You know, the camera I use does not plug in even though I don't move it. So like if you ever notice that there's like a lot of like different framings of shots throughout my video, it's because I have to keep getting up, changing the battery, putting it back and hoping that it's just like in the right place, and it never is. Posing, right, okay. Yeah, okay, this is... Oh my goodness. Yeah, I have no idea what to expect from this. I miss my external monitor. If anyone knows this field, let me know. There's a thing I should do. I mean, I should probably get another camera, but they're so expensive. It's silly. I feel like we put cameras in our camera phones, and then actual cameras got more expensive because they're like a specialty item, and then there are people who are willing to pay it, and then I'm just like, I just like having my phone on me. I don't want to film with it and get a lot of data saved. I need an SD card. I'm gonna stop talking now and just hope that one of my, like, I feel like that was my most popular video is me doing this. So like, but see, I feel like it's too risky to do because I don't know what that looks like. So I gotta do more like. At least maybe this one will have me like with the right eye line, so that'll be a plus. All right, my camera's blinking and telling me it's time to change the battery, so I'm gonna go. M'lady.